we have here something from Yad Pshuta. You guys know what the Yad Pshuta is? You've read Yad Pshuta? Okay, so let me give a little historical background. Rav Kapach, we talked about Rav Kapach last week. I still have this in there. So, what's my introduction to the concept of, I guess, Torah Eretz Yisrael? How does that begin? So, Rabbi Rabinovich, I didn't know much about him when I was in Chutz La'aretz, and I did not go to Birkat Moshe. I maybe came across some of his articles in the usual rabbinic journals, but it's not like something that really stuck out. It's not like I knew about him personally. But his son was the rabbi here. And even though the father was a Rosh Yeshiva, and now the grandson is also involved in teaching one of the major Hesder yeshivas, the middle one, the son, who's here, who's my father's age almost, was a private individual. He worked on a lot of Sfarim that ArtScroll published, and he also published his own. For example, you look at these, a lot of the Sansino, no, it's not Sansino, Schottenstein, ArtScroll Gemaras in English, they were made by him, major part of the team, and also a lot of their Mishnayos. So that's what he was doing. And I came to him one day because I was reading my Vilna edition of the Rambam on the bus, going to work one day. And the Ravid has a bomb kasha on the Rambam somewhere. I forget which one it is. And it's really a real head scratcher. Like, how could the Rambam write what he did? And Rabbi Rabinovich told me, go get yourself the Makbili version. The Makbili has just put out this version of the Mishnah Torah in one volume. And it's based on all the Kisvei Yad. It takes into account everything that Frankel did and everything Rav Kapach did and everything Rabbi Rabinovich Sr. did. And even makes notes of, the major actual chilu figures, so it's the ones that actually matter and can be traced back to the Kisvei Yad. And you should get yourself that. And you read the Makbili version, and the whole Ravid Kasha falls apart because the Ravid already himself had a bogus version of the Rambam. Once you have the real version of the Rambam, there is no question. He holds like the Ravid. See, no problem. So that was my introduction to, get yourself some Rambams. What about the Chazon Ish's taina that if this is the Girsa that Am Yisrael has had, now it's accepted as the Girsa, and no Girsology. The problem is the Rambam himself said that the Rambam tried to correct the Girsas of the Gemaras themselves, and the Beis Yosef did this also. We hold like that. Just because the Chazon Ish said this doesn't mean it's a halacha. It's actually one of the most difficult things the Chazon Ish was famous for saying. And we have to ask the question: why did the Chazon Ish say such a thing if it goes against that which the earlier poskim and also logic say? If everybody says, there was a joke when I was still on good terms with Nafimash. So he had said this Chazon Ish, and I said, I'm going to prank you. I'm going to say something in your name. Tell everybody you said this. Don't believe me. Just like he says this and that. Then come back a year later and you're going to say, I didn't say that. Like, yeah, but everybody believes it now. Now it's Makubal that's what you hold. It doesn't matter what you say. What?
I watched a multi-part share about that Chazon Ish.
Yes.
How it's like not necessarily his only approach.
Okay.
I think like the new Rabbeinu Hananel and like I don't know, like various like sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Okay. The fact that it would be sometimes yes would be a little bit difficult. You'd expect it to just be one thing entirely. So Rabbi Rabinovich Jr. told me that got to start learning Rambam real. And of course, I was introduced to the Yad Pshuta, where they have it. We have a few volumes here. I've been collecting them for this base medrash. And of course, that's why I discovered Rav Kapach's commentary on the Mishnah Torah. Learning Mishnah Torah, Rambam al Pi HaRambam. So that really opened up my eyes. That was 15 years ago. So you could go in America. Obviously, these weren't part of the curriculum. The Yad Pshuta and Rav Kapach's Rambam weren't there. If we learned Rambam, we learned it out of order, and we learned with Rav Chaim. The Chidushei Agrach, sometimes Grizz, and also with Rabbi Braunspiel liked to learn Rambam with, of course, Minchas Chinuch. That was his favorite. Get yourself a copy of Minchas Chinuch, which is also awesome. But it's not Rambam Pir Rambam, and the Minchas Chinuch himself also, like I pointed out in the Haggadah, has some bad gears to the Rambam. He has a question on the Rambam, but it's actually the problems are resolved when you just get yourself at least a Frankel edition of Homer if you have Rav Kapach's and Rabbi Rabinovich's version. And then that's when I started speaking to Rabbi Rabinovich himself. I never got to sit in shiurim, but I met him a few times, and I started calling up with all sorts of questions as I went through these things. And tonight is the second night of the month. We just saw the moon coming here, and he was the first one who, when I asked him, it seems that the Rambam says you're supposed to have Kiddush Levana as soon as possible, and it ends up on Rosh Chodesh. And he says, yes, that's true. And it turns out all of Rav Kapach's Talmidim do that. They're the ones who have the Israeli New Moon Society that puts out those charts that help you find the new moon on nights like these. That's what they do. And some people couldn't believe it, but my luach told me I have to wait until tomorrow night or 2 nights from now. Tomorrow night Shabbos, it's going to be Motzei Shabbos, and then fifth night of the month already, whatever it is. Is that way it's going to work out? Well, tonight, the fourth night of the month. Yeah, Motzei Shabbos is the fourth night of the month. Either way, this was the beginning. And Rabbi Rabinovich had very interesting opinions regarding Yom Ha'atzmaut and Hallel and the reading of Megillah, all sorts of things I mentioned in previous shurim. And by the time it came, we were ready to start publishing the Haggadah HaPesach, he was already too on New Year's to even read it. So he said, "I can't read it. I can't see." I'm like, "So sorry. I would have loved to present to you. Get to do this." Rav Tendler himself also, before we went to publication, asked for a personal copy, which I printed on my computer. I put in 200 pages, printed out back when I had a better printer. But yeah, so that's how it goes. So Rabbi Rabinovich, basically, one of the first things I read was his commentary to Hilchos Shabbos of the Rambam, where he talks about the issue I've been talking about, Shkiyat HaChamah, etc., the Tzeit HaKochavim. That was one of the first things I read from Rabinovich, his take on that, and the whole thing with the elevation. So we don't have a copy of Hilchos Shabbos in Yad Pshuta here. And the last time I was looking at it was in the local yeshiva. The local yeshiva has a Yad Pshuta set. So they have a library. I could go in there all the time, but I was there on Shabbos, and I can't photograph and make a copy to put on the computer here on Shabbos. So I'll have to suffice with what's here, a copy of Rabbi Rabinovich's summary of what he wrote on Hilchos Shabbos in Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh. What?
You want it is all online.
Yeah? Do I have to pay for it?
No.
Really? Okay, you have to send me the link. I'm too computer illiterate to do this, So what we have is we do have a copy of Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh. The Rambam Rabbi Rabinovich didn't just put out all of Yad Pshuta at once. As a matter of fact, he didn't finish it. He started with Shabbos, I think, that came out 30 years ago. And over the course of the years, he would add volumes. So Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh, he actually had a lot of help with, once again, his Talmud, Roy Hoffman. Once again, the new moon guy, the astronomer. So here he has the short version of what he's trying to say. And here was, in this text, which we're not going to go through all of it, but I'm just going to put it here so you can see this. Someone was asking a kasha. There's two kashas that I have to address that I'm sorry, in all the previous shurim, I didn't say this explicitly. And when I was saying it, I wasn't saying it on my own authority. Rabbi Rabinovich writes it. And it's in the Yad Pshuta. I thought that you could also get this from Rambam, but not everybody understands it exactly as Rabbi Rabinovich says. But I think it's like most places. It's rock solid. It answers all the kashas. And the two kashas are as follows. The Rambam says in Hilchos Shabbos that, I think in this halacha, from when the sun goes down until 3 stars come out is called Ben Hashmashos, B'chol Makom, Guzman Anikra Ben Hashmashos B'chol Makom. That's in Shabbos 5:4. V'hu Safik Min Hayom Safik Min Halayla V'danin Bo Lahachmir B'chol Makom. And we treat it like a chumrah in any case. L'fichach Ein Madlikin Bo. So the Rabbi Rabinovich, the Rambam, which by the way they're both great. So I wonder what the Rambam says when he got to meet Rabbi Rabinovich finally. Good job. Thank you very much. Straighten things out and it's a shame he couldn't finish the whole Yad Pshuta. But either way, what the Rambam says here is that Ben Hashmashos is a time of Safek. It's like night and day. So we're l'chumra on all cases. Which means, of course, that when Ben Hashmashos starts, you can't do Malach on Friday. And you can't do Malach on Motzei Shabbos until you get the Tzeit HaKochavim. That's obvious, and let's say every other chumrah that could exist. Basically, anything you have to that's connected to the night, you have to wait until Tzeit to do. And anything that would be forbidden at night, you have to stop already at Shkiyah. That would be the result of what most people read here in the Rambam. There's a problem that needs to be addressed. I was saying, and I've been collecting proofs for this, that that for many mitzvahs, both D'oraisa and the Rabbanon, the Rambam would accept that the mitzvah could start at Shkiyah. The Rambam says so in many places and applies that in many places. You could actually do the mitzvah Shkiyah. The day ends at what he says, Haschal Salayla, is Shkiyah. And there's even a concept of Tosefes Kedushas Yontif for Shabbos, that if you have accepted Shabbos or Yontif, then it's already time to do the mitzvahs at that point, even before sundown, before Shkiyah. But here the Rambam says, B'chol Makom. He says B'chol Makom twice. So Rabbi Rabinovich addresses this issue and says, the Rambam here is basically contradicting himself. We know that there are many times when the Rambam says that Shkiyah is good enough. And as a matter of fact, there's only 3 actual halachas. My claim was for 3 halachas, the Rambam says we're machmir for Tzeit HaKochavim. Shabbos going out, we wait until Tzeit, and for Hariv Shemesh, and for Yom Kippur to end, and for Kriyas Shema. But you look, the reason for the other 2, for Shabbos, we're machmir because it's Isser Skila. But for Kriyas Shema, we wait until Tzeit because the pasuk specifically says B'shach B'cha. It's not good enough for the night to start at Shkiyah. You have to wait for B'shach B'cha. And Hariv Shemesh, for the purity to kick in. It's also not good enough for the sun to set. It says Va Shemesh V'taher. You have to wait for the second stage of Taher, where all the light's gone from the sky. So obviously the Rambam doesn't hold to this. So Rabbi Rabinovich continues and shows here something very important, that the whole makom doesn't mean everywhere in halacha. It means everywhere on earth. Okay? Why? Because the time varies. The time between sundown and the stars coming out varies with where you are on earth. So he's trying to say that this is ben hashmashos. It takes, wherever you are, the standard is 3 stars coming out. If you're on the equator, you wait until 3 stars come out, and it's actually quite soon after the sun goes down. And if you live in Sweden, most nights of the year, it takes a lot longer for 3 stars to come out after the sun goes below the horizon. There's a very simple mathematical / astronomical explanation for that phenomenon. That's what he means. But he doesn't mean that we're machmir for Tzeit HaKochavim / Shkiyah, that ben hashmashos donim b'chol makom as that. And you can continue reading what Rabbi Rabinovich says. He wrote it in 2 places. It's in Hilchos Shabbos to this halacha, and it's in Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh. The second issue was one that Leon brought up, and that is that standard of 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars. 1 stars of the day, 2 stars of this, and 3 stars at night is fully night. That is mentioned in the Gemara, also in Shabbos, but the Rambam doesn't bring it up except in Kiddush HaChodesh. The Rambam says normally Shkiyah is the cutoff point for things that are done in the Beis HaMikdash. Once Shkiyah hits, the Zevach is Nifsal, the Dam is Nifsal, etc. Once Shkiyah hits, that's when you light your Hanukkah candles. That's when you have to keep Shabbos. And it says, and when 3 stars come out, now it's fully night. But in Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh, the Rambam says, with regards to how much time is left for the Beis Din to declare, oh, it's Rosh Chodesh because someone saw the moon. Thank God, we're witnesses. I think we could be kosher witnesses together. We saw the moon. So what happens? The Rambam says, if there's just 1 star showing, it's still daytime. But if 2 stars already came out, now it's Suffolk. Now it's Ben Hashmashos. And of course, if there are 3 stars, it's definitely night. Why did Rambam suddenly introduce this concept, this one-off concept in the Gemara? In Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh, why did the Rambam just say, if it's after Shkiyah, it's not too late. And if it's during Ben Hashmashos, they shouldn't do it already. Why did the Rambam bring up the standard? Hold on, that's the wife. Okay, mission accomplished. So Rabbi Rabinovich answers that indeed, when we're talking about most halachas, you're dealing with balabatim. It's nimsar to everybody. So looking at Shkiyah is something that everybody sees. Yes, it turns out that not everybody gets to see the Shkiyah, but that's a general thing. Like the Rambam says, if you don't know when exactly the sun is setting, what should you do? And if sunset is extreme, let's say, don't do malach after the sun sets because you're going to get skila for doing so. What should you do? What does the Rambam say? If you don't live with a clear view of the western horizon and it's not a clear day, you should, let's say, take in your Shabbos early. You should light your candles and they should sound the shofar and everybody's shoves beforehand, as a good public policy, not because Ikra Din says it's just a smart thing to do. But with regards to Kiddush HaChodesh, which is given over to the Beis Din, and the people who sit in the Beis Din and are in charge of doing this are supposed to be the elite, and also they're supposed to be physically better than everybody. You can't assume like people like us we're all a bunch of four eyes, right? But the people in the Sanhedrin are supposed to have better eyes than everybody, and they're supposed to know the halakha is better. So for them, the standard is the stars. And the one star that shows up is the type of star that the first star is the type of star that's visible during the day, even. So he says one star, Mercury, whatever it is. So now you still know it's daytime. But once you have two stars, so it's already banish mashos, then the Beis Din wouldn't do it. And that's what Rabbi Rabinovich says. So this is basically what I've been saying all along, that the standard that the Rambam uses for most mitzvahs is nighttime starts when the sun sets. And even, it's implied in many cases, the Rambam says a mitzvah d'oraisa, like counting the Omer, starts from sunset. By the way, why do the Medaktikim wait for Tzeis? It doesn't have to do with this suffix. It has to do with Yom HaMe'unan. Remember? Yom HaMe'unan. What's Yom HaMe'unan? On a cloudy day. What would be the problem? If you tell people that they could count Omer from sundown, you don't get to see the sun set every single day. It's often cloudy. Or sometimes you have the local Ishmaelites make a huge fire during the middle of the day, and there's black smoke filling the sky. We've had times like that. It gets hazy, or there's other conditions that are affecting this. If you tell people they could count Sphira at Shkiyah, they might very well come to just count before Shkiyah. And if you're counting Sphira before Shkiyah, you didn't do anything because it's not tomorrow yet. So it makes sense. They just tell people wait until Tzeis, which itself is over just 18 minutes or so afterwards. Rabbi Rabinovich has a lot more to say here, but that's enough for. That's not enough, but that's just what we should be aware of here. So that which I was giving was from an early piece from Rabbi Rabinovich explaining that when the Rambam says b'chol makom and done and all that, he doesn't really hold of. The Rambam doesn't hold that bein hashmashos is a suffix for every din that we're going to talk about in Mishnah Torah in the halacha. It's only for Shabbos. And b'chol makom is talking about different places on earth. Okay, there's a standard on earth, even though things can change. I highly recommend you read the whole thing because my introduction to this is certainly not sufficient. Okay, so read Rabbi Rabinovich's commentary Yad Pshuta to Hilchos Kiddush Chodesh and Hilchos Shabbos.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.